And we're live and on the wrong sides. Hold on. That's better.
Welcome, Saints fans, to another edition of Saints TV Live. I hope you're all well on this Tuesday night. Max, how are you doing?
Yeah, all right. It is what it is, isn't it? Saints results should not impact how my weekend goes anymore, or how my weekend should end, because it's just unfortunately disappointment after disappointment now. In terms of results, not in terms of how the weekend actually went. But yeah, I don't know. It's just it's a bit bittersweet again, and I don't know. At least this is like our hour of therapy, isn't it, Jordan? So hopefully feeling a bit better after tonight. And how are you doing?
I don't know about hour of therapy. I think it might be more hour of therapy for the viewers and to give them the opportunity to get some steam off, not so much for us. I'd say you're right in saying that I'm sort of numb to what St Kilda dishes up each week. Probably in the earlier part of the season, the results, how St Kilda went, and after a loss made me want to St Kill myself. But now it doesn't. Now it doesn't really affect me. But yeah. Just yeah, just numb, just feeling numb.
Yeah,
But less so than usual because we're actually used to it by now.
it's
Yeah,
interesting though, because like it's numb, because it's not numb necessarily because of the losses or whatever. Like, I could handle the losses. It's the insanity of how we're losing. It's the same thing every week. It's not like we've tried to throw the magnets around, which we're going to get into sort of in the next hour or 50 minutes to an hour, depending how long the show goes. But um, we're losing the same way every single week. And if we were trying something different, or moving magnets around, or seeing a few different players move in and out of the side, then maybe the losses would be less painful. But we are doing the same thing over and over and over again. And as you said, we're numb.
I think I'm going to be honest with you, Max. I think if you speak to any Hawthorn or West Coast or North Melbourne fan over the past 2 years, regardless of what you're doing on the field, if you lose, it still sucks. So anyway, but we'll get into playing the kids and captaincy and Ross Lyon and all that good stuff. But do we want to just talk a bit about the square in the top right of our screen?
Yeah, as always, we'll start off Saints TV Live by shouting out our sponsor for 2024, the Press Sellers, the self-proclaimed best bottle shop in the world, which is fully independent, meaning the best prices and choices going around. Check them out for you. Almost got through it. Check them out for yourself, located on Smith Street in Warragul.
Yep. Alternatively, visit their website, thepresssellers.com.au. Do we want to just jump into Saner of the round?
Yeah, we'll start off with a positive. Well, yeah, positive. I don't know if it's positive or not. I'll take it as it is. Jack Steele, centre of the round. 33 disposals, 10 marks, 4 clearances and a goal. Yeah, look, he played really well. Numbers look great. I think just with everyone, Jack Steele, I hope that he just continues to get just such like a good run at it without injuries and no niggles or anything, because I think we were all a little bit worried when we saw his knee taped up a few weeks ago and heard that he might have, had a bit of soreness running through his knee. It's like, oh, not another thing that goes through. But I think just Jack Steele, if you can just keep up your numbers, keep up your good work, a lot of it will go unnoticed, or maybe it might go a little bit more noticed than usual just because of how poor the side has been. But just if he can keep quietly ticking away, hitting his KPIs every week, being a captain, being a leader, at least he's stepping up, then I think that's all things good for Jack Steele, and builds on next year.
Yep, fair enough. Did you want to spotlight a few players before we jump into, before maybe I bring up a talking point to dissect, what's going on at St Kilda?
Yeah, absolutely. So Nasai Wanganeen-Malira, I thought he played actually quite well in week in, week out. 30 touches, 730 metres game, which I believe was a game high. Definitely a team high. I'm not sure about a game high. Had 2 clearances. I don't know, he just we know what Nasai is going to do each week, and it's generally positive things. Also want to shout out Mason Wood. He's just a pillar of consistency. There's no one quite like Mason Wood in our side. Maybe someone might say Darcy Wilson will become Mason Wood in a few years' time, but 27 disposals, only 3 marks, felt like more, but he's just such a pillar for us on that wing. And he tries to be the connecting piece, at least between, the back flank and the half forward line. And then Jack Sinclair playing full-time midfield, as we'll get into later on. Again, generally pretty positive. 30 disposals, 1 goal, 4 tackles, 6 clearances. So, look, at least he's building into the season quite nicely. Probably started off a little bit slower than everyone would have expected. But you can see now he's injury-free, touch wood, and just continues to get back to his All-Australian form.
Yeah, nice. Fair enough. I didn't think Nasiah had the best game, but if you look at the stats, then maybe that tells a different story. So I could be wrong. I'll need to go and maybe look at the tape again. The first discussion point, Max, that I want to bring up with you is forget the game. And actually, before I forget, shout out to Max. A spotlight on Max Gorn because he absolutely cooked us on the weekend. 10 coaches' votes. Shout out to him. Phenomenal game, even if he's the opposition captain.
He is by far the greatest ruckman of all time, isn't he?
Okay, I'm not sure if I'd go that far, but he's certainly going to be the All-Australian ruckman this year. He's in some incredible form at the moment, and had an incredible career too. In a vacuum, forget the result in isolation, Max. Did you expect St Kilda to be where they are at the beginning of the season?
I expected us to drop. I didn't expect us to drop this much.
How far did you expect us to drop?
I expected us to, if I look at the ladder, obviously the ladder's a little bit different this year just because it's so close. So when I say 10th, does that necessarily mean I would have expected us to be on 6 wins? Actually, probably. I expected us sort of to be just outside the 8 going into the bye, and then be close enough in that last sort of half a year. The last half of the year where we have only 1 road trip away from Marvel, and we put together a few, 6-7 weeks worth of good footy, and then that really shoots us back up into the top 6 or top 8. But no, I expected a drop, but not this far.
Okay. I also expected a drop, and I would say it would be closer to where we are now, but I didn't expect us to be bottom 4, but I would expect us to finish 12th or 13th. And, we talk up a positive game on this podcast a bit, but I think in the back of our minds, Maxi, we might have known that, it might not be as rosy as it could be. And it brings about the question. We talked about feeling numb and, we talk about feeling numb and being disappointed in week out. I have for the past few weeks I've said I've been disappointed. I haven't really, to be completely honest with you, Saners. I haven't really been disappointed. And you know why? It's because I expected this to happen. And I'll elaborate on what this means further. I've seen a lot of, people comments in now and just generally over the past couple of weeks throwing the toys out the pram. I think I would rather fall in the bottom 4. And yeah, it sucks. It sucks to be in the bottom 4. But it's better that we're in the bottom 4 and know where we are as a club than finishing 12th or 13th. And we can get a higher draft pick. We can, now we're not in the finals race at all. We can experiment with young players. We can bring in guys like Angus Hastie and Hugo Garcia more. But the main thing is, Max, that I just expect this to happen. I figured that this would happen at some point or another. And I honestly don't mind. Now, yes, I did say last week St Kilda's had more 5-year plans than Joseph Stalin. That is absolutely true. This club's been rebuilding since pretty much 1967 after we won the flag. But I would honestly rather, it's okay to rebuild again, because we knew at the start of the season we didn't have A-graders. We just purely did not have enough. Declan, I keep bringing him up, but in his preseason talk of evaluation of what he thought of St Kilda from an outside, from a non-fan perspective, was spot on. We don't have enough. We've got depth, We've got guys like you can see in the VFL. We've got guys like Hunter Clark and Hunter Clark. Tim Membry kicks 5 or 6 on the weekend, something like that. Brad Crouch, but we don't have enough A graders, and the only way you're going to get A graders is if you're a destination club, which I really don't think St Kilda is, or through the draft, and you have to go through the draft. So Max, do you think it's a positive? That was a lot of waffling, but do you think it's a positive that St Kilda is not winning as much now, like finishing? Okay, would you rather finish 11th or 12th or 15th?
No, I 100% agree. I would rather finish 15th, 16th than finish 12th. The only argument you make for finishing 12th or 12th and 11th at this stage in our season is that at least you look like you forget about the first half of the year. You put some good footy together by the back end of the half, really when all the off-season and free agent talk really starts to ramp up. You look like you're on the rise and you're set to have a big next year. And you bring in free agents. That's the only argument I think right now you can make for wanting to finish middle of the table. Again, you finish 11th, you get a middle 6 draw for the year after, and it obviously doesn't. It shouldn't play a part for a finals team. You should be able to beat the best teams and you should be able to beat the worst teams. Like, your draw should be irrelevant if you want to be a consistent finals team. But where we're at, we probably do need a bottom 6 draw next year. We need one pick in the top 5. It will probably be top 6 at the rate we're going, because Levi Ashcroft will be a Brisbane father-son and a predicted top 5 pick at the moment. But I would rather miss out on a free agent or 2 this year, and we'll touch on some of the free agents because a lot of them look likely to stay, and the ones that are available aren't game changers. Right? We speak about Luke Davies-Uniacke, and I love Luke Davies-Uniacke, but if we inject him into our midfield, it's not the same as injecting Bontempelli, right? It's not the same as injecting someone like an Isaac Heaney or, for lack of a better example, someone like a Jordan Dawson, right? They don't automatically make your midfields top 6 in the AFL, right? He definitely fixes a lot of the issues and he definitely strengthens it up, but it doesn't automatically make it a top 6. And my worry is that we bring in someone like a Luke Davies-Uniacke, everyone raises him like the next coming of Christ, and then when he performs well, but not to the standard of, those elite Brownlow medalists, top 10 in the AFL comp, like then we hate on him and, we're back to square one again. So, yeah, I don't know. That's my rant, I guess.
Yeah, no, fair enough, Max. I just want to pull up this comment from Lenny. And first of all, I want to say that Sydney did actually finish 16th in 2020. But the main point here, Lenny, is that Geelong and Sydney, I like to use the term reload instead of rebuild. And the reason why they don't bottom out is because they're able to develop young talent while still having top-end talent. So you've got the top-end talent that takes you far enough to finish inside the top 8 and the top 4. We don't even have that. Like, that's not, that's not me throwing the toys out of the pram. That's reality. And I think we all knew that we weren't going to finish top 4 this year, but we don't have a lot of A-grade talent. And if you don't have that, then you have no choice but to bottom out. Like, it's just reality. Yes, there is a cycle of, I see like a couple of comments here saying we need to build a winning culture. You can't build a winning culture if you don't first get the star, like it's a chicken and egg sort of thing. Once you have the star players, that's when you build a winning culture. But you can't build it if you can't win, because you can't win without star players. You know what I mean?
I actually don't think that's true, because I think last year we did not have necessarily the 10 to 15 A-grade players or however much you're supposed to have. But we developed a winning culture. Well, sorry, culture.
Winning. No.
Let me rephrase. A culture is more so like longevity. So maybe a 5-6 year period. But we were on track to building a winning culture. And whilst I know winning culture inherits a positive record, right? It could just also be the way you're going about it. Hawthorn at the moment, the last 6 weeks, they are building, like, this is a short-term thing. They're building on a winning culture, right? Even when they lost to Port Adelaide and they lost to oh my God, whoever else they lost to, right? They were still in the games. They're still playing really good footy. They're still in games to win it, right? So I don't necessarily think that winning culture, obviously, if you lose, like in North Melbourne, no matter how good a footy you play, you can't build a winning culture. Like that just doesn't exist. But I think that you don't necessarily have to have the A graders to build a winning culture. I think you just have to have the right attitude and the right game style that allows you to do that and be competitive. I think a winning culture is just about how competitive you are. And if you're competitive week in, week out, then that's going to attract stars, or more likely to attract stars than if you don't have that.
The difference is a winning culture came from Hawthorn's three-peat in the 2010s, and a lot of the young guys that Hawthorn have came when the older guys from that premiership era were retiring, so they were able to pass on that. Like if you look at the guys like that we have, like Max King, Mitch Owens, Marcus Windhagen, Nasai Wanganeen Millera, who did they have to look up to in their first couple of years? And that's what I mean by they don't only need mentors, they need star players to actually model their game off. And if you look at Hawthorn, you know that Sam Mitchell, although he's the coach and not showing his playing ability by playing alongside them, like how a Scott Pendlebury would for the young guys at Collingwood, or how, Dangerfield and Selwood do at Geelong, you know that they can look up to, the Hawthorn guys can look up to him as a top midfielder. We would like, Ross Lyon played football, and it's not a knock on him because, there's other coaches. Obviously, most coaches are like 50, 60 years old, but we don't have the players that you can look up to and the stars and the coaching star that you can look up to.
But let me, like, to your point, I'm not saying Hawthorn today don't have a winning culture because of what they did 10 years ago. And what they did 10 years ago, right, how they got that winning culture was by being shit, right? They got all their players in the early 2000s, Franklin, Hodge, Surioli. They got them all by being shit. So
you do agree then we need to bottom out then, is what I'm saying.
That's what we agreed to 10 minutes ago, if that.
Yeah, right? Then what's your point?
My point is that you don't need A-grade players to develop a winning culture. You need to have it's the competitiveness and the brand of footy that you played that develops the winning culture over a long period of time, right? Hawthorn in their sort of three-peat plus one, 2008 to what is it, 2014, 15, whatever year the end of the three-peat was, they developed a winning culture by the way they played, right? And the competitiveness. Even in 2009 when they didn't make the grand final again and they bottomed out for that period of time, they were still playing really good footy. They still wanted to build competitive footy. They then bottomed out, sort of late 2010s, got a whole lot of good draft picks, and now they're looking like they're developing on that. Again, going back to 2008, not maybe to the same extent as winning premierships, but they're playing a good brand of footy that is inherently going to become winning culture, right? I don't think that necessarily...
Hawthorn have had A-graders in the time that they haven't won premierships.
Have they had more than we have, though?
Well, they had a Brownlow medalist. They had Tom Mitchell.
The end of it, yeah, who they traded.
Well, yeah, but after 4 years after the fact that he won a Brownlow medal and was still sticking around
in a losing side.
Well, Hawthorn weren't losing until 2020.
Yeah, but you can't say
they still have guys like Jack Gunston is in the late stage of his career, who I'm equating, maybe not on the same level as Dangerfield, or Selwood or Pendles, but he's still like a legend of the club. They've had guys like Jai Newcomb. If you've watched any Hawthorn, he is an A-grade star, and he's been carrying them for the past 2 years. Hawthorn still have A-graders and have had A-graders. We've had Jack Steele be an A-grader for like 2 seasons, and that's like all the legitimate A-grade talent we have. We had Sinclair be an All-Australian for an A-grade talent for 1 year.
2
Like,
years.
we don't have that consistent A-grade talent coming through the door.
Sinclair was an All-Australian for 2 years, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay, 2 years.
Right? But what I'm saying is, even though they had a Brownlow medalist, right, in 2017 to 2020, right, they didn't have a winning culture then. They were bottoming out and they were trying to lose to get these influx of talent in. Jai Newcomb was a mid-season draft, right? But then they bring in Connor McDonald, they bring in Chananuk Giath, they bring in Will Day, right? They bring in a lot of guys from having a losing culture, right? Winning culture isn't like the only team I think you can historically say have had a winning culture for the better part of 20 years is Geelong because they don't lose, right? Everyone else goes ups and downs. Like West Coast through the mid 2000s had a winning culture and they ultimately won the flag, but you can't say that what they did or even in 2018, they developed a winning culture over a set period of time.
But they didn't bottom out, though. They didn't bottom out for a very long time.
What are they doing now? You can't tell me they still have a winning culture because they've got premiership players from 2018.
2020, 21, 22, like that's 4 years. They still had, I would argue that even in those, they didn't finish like bottom two. They didn't finish last. Like Hawthorn in 2018 finished fourth. Hawthorn in 2019, if I remember correctly, finished ninth. They didn't bottom out.
By your logic, that the last 3 years, right, West Coast have been utterly poor. They still have that premiership. They still, I think, played 10 premiership players on the weekend, right? To you, that's saying they still have a winning culture because they've got legends of the club still playing for them. That's completely wrong because they're bottomed out. They now have a losing culture. They tried to lose to get Harley Reid. Ultimately, a good move, assuming he stays. But they don't have a winning culture now because they've got 2018 players that were a part of a winning culture, right? Oh, Styles says Sydney as well. Yeah, their bottom was 16, but they've been good every other year since, right? Like I think that a winning culture is defined by a winning period of time. Brisbane Lions over the last 5-6 years have had a winning culture, right? And they've just been so close but so short. Like it's very similar to how we were in sort of the 2000s, entirely 2000s, pretty much from 2003 onwards. Yeah, Brisbane had a losing culture. They got a whole lot of good players in through the early 2010s, mid 2010s. Now they've got a winning culture because they're just winning a lot of games, playing a good brand of footy for a sustained period of time.
All right, I think we've been talking about this for too long. You're going to say move on anyway.
Yeah.
Next question I have for you is Jack Steele the right captain for the St Kilda Footy Club?
Short term or long term? Like, what's your?
Would define short term?
I'd say
season.
Okay,
go long term. I'm not. When I say captain, I wouldn't change him now. I wouldn't change him like this season. I would wait till the end of the season, of course.
So you're saying change in the next sort of 2 years is what?
I'm not saying. I'm just asking what your opinion is.
Oh, then no. I think you wait it out. I think he's a good captain, right? I know that a lot of people say time to give it to Wilkie. Wilkie's very similar age profile as Jack Steele, right? Obviously long term, no, because he is, in the prime of his career now. So you don't want to end up, having a captain when he's 34, 35 years old. Maybe unless they're like someone like a Scott Pendlebury or I don't know, who's still playing really good footy at their age. I don't know, Zorko, but he's not a captain material. Anyway, I don't think you have captains sort of past 32, 33, unless they're, all-time legends of the game. So until then, Steele's our man to go with, I think. And until one of these young kids sort of throw their hand up, like, was it Travis Boak that was the captain of Port before Connor Rosie?
Yes.
Yeah. So until that sort of handover is ready, don't change the captaincy. I think the captain should go to it. Like the next captain should be a young kid when they're ready and they're, sort of 22 to 24 years old, not give it over when someone's in the prime, because otherwise I don't think there's any point.
There is point, Max. There is absolutely point. I think, and this is not a knock on Jack Steele because I'm not calling into question his character, but not for the first time on. I just don't think he's a leader, because I saw several times on Sunday where someone would make a mistake and he would, instead of either A, encouraging, or B, instructing players on what to do, he would give a look of dejection and move on. That's not leadership. You're allowed to do that if you're one of the other 21 guys playing for the St Kilda Footy Club. You have to do either encouragement or give orders if you're the captain, and for too long he's been doing neither of those things. I've never been a fan of captains being in the midfield anyway, because they don't see the whole ground and they're constantly in the thick of it. Having someone like Wilkie who can see the whole ground makes more sense. And I think Wilkie is just someone who, and they spoke about this on First Crack, when you're a team low on confidence, when you're a team that in any given year, there'll always be like 2 or 3 guys that are low on confidence. You can paper over those cracks, and the captain can help paper over those cracks by instructing those guys. If your team is low on confidence, like St Kilda clearly is now, you need your captain to step up and to instruct those guys and give them real leadership. And Steele's not doing that. He's been captain for, this is what, 2021, 2, 3, 4. This is his 5th season now. He just hasn't shown, this is not like we're rushing into it. He just hasn't shown the leadership that I would have liked to see. And I'm sure, I'm not calling into question his character or anything. I'm sure he's a terrific and lovely guy off the field and whatever. But I would rather have someone like Wilkie who can, pardon me, who from everything, from what I can gather, just seems to not only have the respect of the players, which Steele does, that's not the question, but being confident enough in yourself to be able to give orders and to give feedback and that like.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think we can quite comment on what, like maybe body language and visual cues. You can really only see what the TV sees. Obviously, unless you're at the ground and you've got a magnifying glass on Jack Steele. But realistically, we've got no clue what he says in the huddles, right, before every bounce, right? We've got no clue. Okay, you can stop pulling up comments.
I'm just giving everyone what? Why would I not pull up comments? I'm just giving everyone a chance to be heard.
No, I was just, we've got zero clue what goes on behind the scenes at training. We've got zero clue what goes on. I agree with that, actually. Sorry, just stop me. Being one of the best players doesn't mean captain material. That's absolutely right. Like Dustin Martin will never be a captain. Well, never has a captain, but we've got zero clue, to my point, what goes on in the huddles, behind the scenes, pre-game, post-game, right? Maybe on-field body language needs to improve, but unless something comes out by the club or a story gets leaked or something like that Jack Steele actually isn't the one that's driving the boys off the field and on the field, it's someone else, or it's the negative stuff is sort of coming out. I'm backing in Jack Steele, because like how on earth would we sort of know what is actually being said in the huddles, and for all the reasons I said or examples I gave before.
There's an old proverb, Max, actions speak louder than words. And I think that from what we've seen, I think that proverb speaks true here. I think you can, yes, you're right in saying we don't know what goes on behind the 4 walls at Moorabbin. It's not a lot of winning, let me tell you that. But from what I can see, in my opinion, is, and I'm just a Joe Blow on the street. I'm just, I'm no better, I'm no more knowledgeable than you or any other guy here. From what I can see, I question Steele's leadership abilities, and I think that Wilkie would be a good fit. But at the end of the day, that's just my opinion.
Yeah, I don't know. I think the only thing we probably agree on is that captains don't all not necessarily should be in the midfield. I think they should be either outside players, like someone like a Mason Wood, who plays on the wing and can see pretty much the entire field. and he'll run anyway, so he'll be able to talk to just about everyone. Or someone that's behind the ball. I don't think forwards should be captains, not unless again they're a generational forward or someone like a Nick Rewalt, where they're just the actions week in week out, make you never question it, or like a Pavlich or someone like that. But anyway, I don't know. I don't think the captain should be changing until a young kid is ready to become captain, which probably won't be for another couple of years, I would assume.
All right, well, fair enough. Let's not beat a dead horse like we did with the last topic. Let me ask you this question, Max. I said before that this is a year of exploration, that I expected the drop, and I was fine with that. What do you think are the ins and outs against West Coast? Do you think it's time to blood the kids? What do you do?
Not time to blood the kids, but we've got 20 players out of contract. Some are old, some are young, some are sort of in the middle stages of their career. It's time to see everyone have a crack, right? We obviously know Lance Collard got subbed out of the game. Just before I get into the ins and outs, because he is sort of that 50-50 one I'm not sure about. I was actually relatively pleased from what I saw. I know the numbers say otherwise, and I know, kicking to a one-on-one with Collard and, or was it Tom McDonald?
Yeah,
is not the desired outcome, right? When you're trying to build a player.
That's not his. That's not. I was going to mention that. That's not his fault, though.
No, that's not his fault. That's the ball use. But
that's Bonner.
Yeah, we'll get to him in a sec. But I was actually relatively pleased from what I saw.
How Riley Bonner.
I was pleased. He was close enough to the ball where it goes, damn, you just need a little bit more craft. You need a little bit more exposure to high level senior footy, and you get that at VFL level, obviously. But geez, you were close to a few of the crumbs. Your pressure wasn't like too far off from where you'd probably like to see a small forward. Like he's getting there. And if you watch the tape back, you always see Collard just, he's in screen. And for me, if you're a small forward in screen, that means you're probably doing something right, because it means you're working hard enough to get to the contest. Or if it's a defender, you're chasing that defender and you're not just left off the screen. So I actually think he played a positive game, even though he got subbed out and didn't have the numbers to support it. But he's building. So ins and outs. Cooper Sharman, I think, comes out because Tim Membry kicked 6 goals on the weekend. Caminiti played fine in the ruck. Maybe we just need that one more tall player, because Owens looked like he played a little bit higher up the ground in spurts. So Cooper Sharman out, Tim Membry in. Now, Jordan, our favourite player, Riley Bonner, I believe he comes out of the side. I think it's time. He can pull off some great kicks, and he's got a bit of dash off a halfback. It's not to the same extent we saw in preseason, and it's definitely not to the same extent that he's playing with at AFL level. Time for him to have a rest at VFL level. Bring in Hunter Clark, had 30-something touches, or 30, what do you have? 33 touches at, 31 touches. Sorry, that was Brad Crouch. At VFL level, time to bring him back into the side. Had a rough run with injuries. They weren't soft tissue injuries. They're all been impact injuries, which is just, unlucky, bad luck. So Hunter Clark comes back in. And then my last change is Seb Ross out and Brad Crouch in.
I don't think Hunter Clark should come back in.
Who would you take in for Riley Bonner?
Bloody anyone, mate. Garcia or Hasty, I think, play the kids now.
So would you move Sinclair?
I don't think Hunter Clark's a good decision maker. And I want to bring up this comment from Lenny, because I was actually thinking of this as well, that Mark Robinson was right on 360 when he said that we don't know whether to make decisions. Hunter Clark is not a good decision maker. So I think bringing him back in almost amplifies that issue. And we saw it in the elimination final against GWS last year. Sorry, what was your question?
Oh, I was going to say, if you're bringing Garcia or Hasty, that means Sinclair goes to halfback because there's a vacancy in the back line.
That's fine.
No, I'm just asking, is that what you would do if you brought one of the 2 players in?
Yeah.
Okay.
I would put him back to where he won 2 All-Australians. I don't know why we keep persisting him in the midfield. He can be the X factor, come in for a term, come in for a quarter. But I wouldn't play him the full game there, and I wouldn't rely on him as a midfielder. because I don't think he can actually play the full game in midfield, for one. And I like him off halfback, I do.
I'm the same. I think he's great off halfback.
I would play. The point is, Max, that I would play Garcia or Hasty. I would agree with Beth in. I can't find a comment right now, but in saying that you need more veterans on the road trip because it's a long flight to Perth, even if they are in business class. I would play Tim Membry and Brad Crouch for the experience. In any other week, I probably wouldn't. Maybe not Brad. Maybe Tim Membry because he kicked 6, and you can't not reward that. But maybe instead of, if we weren't playing the Eagles, if we weren't going to WA this week, I'd almost play someone like Ollie Houghton, or Garcia. Just play the kids. Just give them a go. We have been playing the kids, but we need to play them more. We're not who cares if we finish 13th or 14th this year? Cool, we win 1 or 2 more games than we otherwise would have. That's nice. I'd rather get more games into the youngsters. And you know what? On that note, maybe St Kilda can give me a go because I couldn't be much worse than Riley Bonner on the weekend.
I would like to share screen. Favorite website, DFS Australia. I just want to pull up something that really caught my eye. Can we all see that?
Yes.
Great. So this is just for those. I'll just show everyone what DFS Australia is. So you go to this section here under AFL. You can see all the kick-ins, how many times teams are playing on kicking in, ruck contests around the ground, player summaries. You can get heat maps and stuff. That's all the sort of stuff we use for Saints TV Live anyway. But we go to CBAs. For those of you who don't know, centre bounce attendances. So when the ball is balled up in the centre square, who's attending it? On the weekend, 85% to Steele, 85% to Marshall. That's pretty much expected. Sinclair, first full-time midfield game, 93%. If Bonner's out of the side, I think he goes back to halfback and you maybe get that 24 to 30 split as we've seen in weeks gone by this year. Jordan, there's someone missing from here. Seb Ross, I'll pull this up.
Are you showing the centre bounce attendances now?
Oh, yeah. Is it not sharing?
No.
Oh, bloody hell. Hold on. Sorry. Stop sharing. And share screen. Sorry, guys. I got a bit carried away. Sorry. Here we go. Can we see that now?
Yes, that's better.
85 to Steele and Marshall. And Sinclair, 93. But I think we like him all at this sort of 24 to 30%, where he's playing maybe a quarter or spurts of quarters through the midfield. What's damning to me is Seb Ross here got 0 CBAs on the weekend. And to me, if you're an inside player, historically known as an inside player, I think he got 15 or 16 touches on the weekend. Inside midfielder, not playing in as an inside mid. What is he doing in the lineup, Jordan?
It's a great question.
To me, it just makes 0 sense, right? I understand Seb Ross has terrific leadership capabilities, and he's an immense trainer off the field. But if you were an inside mid and you are not playing an inside mid role at AFL level, it is time for you to go to VFL, where your experience is probably needed more than ever now, because we've got a lot of young guys. Mateus Philippou. Imagine Mateus Philippou learning off of an AFL quality player, right, at VFL level, right? And you get that experience, you get that one-on-one. Seb Ross can back off and do sort of the more harder stuff for Philippou to figure out and learn his craft, right? You've got Ollie Houghton, Schoenmaker, Garcia, Hasty. You've got a lot of players that are young and developing and up and coming in that VFL side, but there's not a lot of leadership and guidance right now, I don't think. Seb Ross maybe needs to do that for the next couple of weeks until he earns his spot back into our midfield.
Yep, fair enough. I think AJ said spot on, Max. I agree. It's always a good week for Max when he gets to rib on Seb Ross.
I don't say
but it's not about Seb Ross as a player though. I think what your point is more so that you're playing. He is in the side to play a role, and he's not playing it. So why is he in there?
Yeah, and his role, and his role can be so much better utilized at VFL level. And it's not a knock on Seb Ross at all. It's just that We've got a lot of young players down there. Even the guys that are sort of older but not quite veterans, like, that 24 to 25-year-old range, they still need guidance and they still need experience and leadership at that VFL level. I think Seb Ross in the VFL side for the next couple of weeks, or at least up until the bye, which is round 14, so 3 more weeks, is inherently more valuable than him being in a side where he doesn't play as an inside mid, right? Because I don't see Seb Ross as, that forward half player where he's, an elite pressure player and he kicks goals, or he, can kick it from 50, or, he's not on the wing rotation because Wood, Henry, Hill, Wilson all sort of have that covered. I just think I'm sort of repeating myself. He's just so much better utilized at this point in time in our season at VFL level than AFL level.
Yep. And he's also 31 years. He's 31 years old.
Yeah.
So it doesn't fit the age demographic. One thing I will highlight though, Max, what I liked on the weekend, a rare St Kilda positive, was Stocker seemed to really trouble Christian Petrarca.
Yeah, I really liked that matchup. That was awesome.
Yeah. Petrarca, I know that they chucked him forward because Melbourne are trying new things, and I'm not sure that maybe people have suggested in the comments that Stocker could go to someone like Harley Reid. Only if Harley Reid plays forward. I think probably don't want Stocker to be having that tagging role through the midfield. Probably Stocker, if he's going to tag, has to be on one of those like midfields. Like only if Harley Reid's in the forward line, I'd have him there. But shout out to Liam Stocker because he did terrific on the weekend. He was one of the only guys that showed up.
Yeah, he was unreal, and I really liked that move because Stocker's just a physical beast, right? I don't think he's quite fast enough to take someone like the small forwards of the world, like a Cozzy Pickett, or if we were playing Brisbane, like a Charlie Cameron, Tom Papley, Isaac Rankin. I don't think he's the type of defender to do that, but he's definitely the type to take, the Jordan De Goeys and the Christian Petrarcas and Bond might be just slightly too tall, but I think, to that point, sorry, just bring that comment back up, Jordan. What we did on Petrarca was Steele sort of monitored Petrarca when he was in the midfield, and when he went forward, Stocker would manage him. I think if Reed's in the midfield, Windy takes him. If he moves forward, Stocker takes him, and you don't sort of ruin our structure in terms of like putting Stocker into a centre bounce, because that'd be really weird.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Although they did chuck Josh Battle in remember when they chucked Josh Battle in the midfield against GWS? That was funny. That was, I don't know what I'll do, so I'll just do this, and then it actually worked, ironically.
Sorry, there's a few comments saying Michito to Reid. That's not necessarily a tag. I think that's just a matchup that needs to happen. Whether they play directly on each other or if Michito finally gets put into the midfield for some genuine minutes, not just, some late garbage time minutes in the midfield.
Oh, don't be ridiculous, Max. They would never play Machito Owens properly in the midfield like everyone wants to.
Yeah, I don't know, but it'd be a really cool comparison, I guess. Not it wouldn't be a matchup, but it'd be a comparison if they got sort of equal mid-time.
He was drafted. I didn't even realize that he was drafted as a midfielder because they've been playing him forward so much. If he was drafted as a mid, I understand last year whether you wanted to play forward because the forward line was depleted. Our forward line is still, maybe not in terms of personnel, but still isn't great. But just our midfield is even worse, so just play him in the midfield. Okay. I wouldn't encourage.
I'd hope that means like obviously me being naive
within the laws of the game. I would hope.
Well, hopefully, like that means like just Webster tags him, not. Yeah, I think
not Jimmy Webster does the Jai Simpkin thing again.
Yeah. Anyway, we'll move on. Obviously we've spoken a lot. We've gone back and forth a lot, but Jordan, do you want to end sort of the last little segment of the show on a bit of Jordan's squiggle jiggle?
Actually, Max, in addition to Squiggle, do I have permission to show a clip I found on the internet that sums up the experience of the St Kilda Football Club?
I think I know where you're going with this.
Am I allowed to? Do I have your permission to display the clip on air?
I think if we lose to if we lose to West Coast, I reckon that'd be a great way to open the show next week.
Okay. All
Because
right.
then we can make then we can really play on it. But
Okay, yes.
no.
I think that's fair. I think that's fair enough. Things really have to go bad for the clip to happen. So stay tuned next week, folks. If we lose, which we probably will. Anyway,
win, Jordan.
Sure. Yeah. Let's
Not by too much.
all the precedent we've seen for the past couple of weeks indicates a win. Although West Coast did lose by 99 points on the weekend, but they are playing at home now, where they beat Melbourne by 30 points at home, and we lost to Melbourne by what was the score? What was it in the end? 38, 39?
Yeah, it was 100 on the dot to I want to say 66 or 68.
I'm looking it up.
I think I've got it here, actually. Oh, no, I don't. I've script off it. Damn. What was the score? Can someone tell us what the score was? Oh, here it is.
62. 100 to 62.
62. I was a couple over, but yeah. All right. Anyway, Jordan, bit of squiggle jiggle.
Yes, squiggle jiggle. Oh boy! And just before we get into squiggle, this is the expected score for those interested. So the theme of teams scoring a lot more than expected score, scoring more than expected score than they actually do, has ended. So hopefully this puts your argument to that expected score is not a genuine stat max to the sword, because this shows the opposite. And shows that that's probably where we expect to be. We didn't kick fantastically on the weekend. Melbourne kicked okay-ish. Yeah. Anyway, that's kind of random. But who won the round on this week? And it's not going well because we know how who won the round work. We know how that works. Where teams who are in finals contention are rated more harshly for losses. You know that if you lose by 40 points and you're only the 13th best team in the round, then no one really rates you at all. So that's actually quite a negative. Dishonourable expected loss, down to 15th projected, probably going to finish in the bottom four. Lost ground to both Hawthorn and Adelaide. It's not looking good, folks. Here's the projected ladder. My voice is very solemn because this is... Yeah, I feel like I'm at a funeral. St Kilda projected to finish 15th, down the bottom with the West Coast and the Richmonds and the North Melbournes. And this is the prediction versus the Eagles. So Squiggle still has us winning. I know that Sportsbet currently has the Eagles at $1.75 and St Kilda $2.10. Gamble responsibly, of course. Would you say that's fair in the percentage breakdown? Saina's let us know whether you think the percentage breakdown is fair. But Max, do you think that's 54% with a margin of 4 points? Is that fair?
What was the margin? Sorry, 57?
54% chance to win with a margin of 4 to 5 points.
Oh, sorry. I saw that as 57 margin with a 50. Sorry. Anyway, yeah, I think the percentage of us winning, I reckon we're probably more 60-40. Sorry if you can hear my dog, just don't know what he's going nuts outside. But yeah, I'd say we're probably 60-40 in my opinion. And I don't know. I think the win is going to be determined by, I want to say over 20 points. Like if we win, I'd like it to be over 20 points, but then that sort of contradicts my argument before about bottoming out. So yeah, I don't know. I think, yeah, if we should win. We should win.
We should win.
We should.
We should. Keyword being should. Guy, to answer your question, St Kilda are not only 3-8 on the actual season, we're 3-8 on the tosser table. We don't win coin tosses. We just don't.
To be fair, don't think Jack Steele attended the coin toss this week.
Okay, but St Kilda is bad at tossing the coin. Maybe we got a curse on the club.
I think all the I'm pretty sure all the Indigenous boys. So Hill, Collard, Henry, Windhager. I think it was just them four. Correct me if I'm wrong, if I'm missing someone, but I'm pretty sure it was just them four that all attended the centre bounce, and Hilly was the one to pick the coin this week.
Who did you say? Who were the four?
Hill, Collard, Henry, and Windhager.
Yeah, I think that's
I,
all the
because
Indigenous.
I didn't realize Stephen May was Indigenous until I did a bit of a Google because I saw him at the CBA. I'm like, oh, he's not the captain, and like I just didn't realize he was Indigenous. So the more you know. But yeah, it was I think the four Saints boys and the three Melbourne boys. But yeah, not Steele's problem. It's just
Yeah,
we can't win the
Messiah.
toss.
Did you say him or not?
Messiah, that was the one I forgot. I knew there was one I forgot.
There's always somebody.
There's always one.
Yeah.
But yeah,
And yeah, Chris has pointed this out as well. What were we talking about? Yes, toss the table. St Kilda can't win coin tosses and can't win games. There seems to be. I wonder if there's a correlation between that.
maybe the second we win a coin toss, or the second my faith in humanity is restored. It's just bang
It's just
heads.
not going to
Yeah,
happen.
I'm still the opinion that if you call the coin toss and you get it right, it's such a mental win over your opponent.
Well, clearly, because you can see.
Yeah, well, it's just got you walk up into the middle. I sort of joke. It's the three instances. You go an insincere good game to the good handshake. You want a firm grip though to know you mean business, but good game, mate. Like say it, but you don't really mean it. And then if you can do that, and then straight away you get into I want heads, and the coin lands on heads, and you point over his shoulder, you point over their shoulder and go, I'm going that way to your end that you were warming up at. That's such a mind fuck. Sorry, pardon the French, but it's such. I reckon that would be so intimidating. If you were the other captain.
Yeah,
my dog agrees.
Well, I heard the bark sounded more like a no to me, but sure, let's go. No hot takes this week because St Kilda is not winning. We'll bring back the hot takes when they win.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we had a lot of hot takes anyway, scattered throughout the video tonight. So, yeah.
Yes.
Anyway.
AJ reckons your dog is hungry.
No, dog's been fed. It just means that I'm the only one in the house and he wants to be with me.
Okay, fair enough.
All right. So we'll wrap it up there, Sainers. Also, thank you for calling Jordan and I out, because we will, if there is an argument that Jordan and I go on about, we will seriously go on and talk about one thing the entire show if you don't, tell us to get a move on. So that's great. Do that if you don't think that what we're talking about is of any interest to you guys, because we've got a lot of topics to cover, and generally we skip on a couple of them each week. But we'll leave it there. Reminder, check out all the videos on the channel. Also, new potty, old potty, new faces has dropped. One of them you'd recognise, Ari. He's been on the show, but a new face to the channel, Sammy. So welcome, Sammy, to Saints TV. I think that was his debut. I might be mistaken if he was on another Saints, video or segment. But yeah, give that a listen or watch, later on in the week.
Yeah, as always, thank you guys for watching. Enjoy the rest of your Tuesday night and have a great week.
Go the Saints. See you guys.
See you guys next time.